What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video.
We're going to be talking about two really meaningful forms of media. The X-Men, written by Bryan Singer, and The Chrysalids, written by John Wyndham.
But before we start, a quick word from our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. No, we're just kidding. Anyways, back to the video. For today's video, we're going to be comparing both media, figuring out how they're both similar, and also figuring out which one's objectively better.
In The Chrysalids, the victims of oppression are, at first, the telepaths, a group of people living in the conservative society of Wakanook,
where deformed humans are sterilized and cast out of society in an effort to purify that society and produce a world where mutants pretty much don't exist, and what the Wakanookians consider perfect people thrive.
In the X-Men, the overall group of mutants are discriminated against by the normal people. But the overall group is split up into two groups. One, which we'll call the good side, consisting of Wolverine, Professor X, Storm, Jean Grey, Cyborg, and Rogue. Dark side consisting of Magneto, Toad, Mystique, and Sabretooth. Both these sides try to fight for equality, but the dark side goes about it the wrong way. They try to use fear and force to accomplish this goal. This is shown during the first part of the movie when Magneto is trying to obtain Rogue so he can and use her powers to change the whole city into mutants and become what they're trying to destroy.
While both media are based on completely separate concepts, they still follow a relatively similar theme. People with power, not seeing somebody the same as themselves, breeds hatred from fear of the person they perceive as different. We see this in the Chrysalids when the Wakanookians reveal that they used to burn the deviations, believing that there was a lot less trouble with mutants when they were burnt like other deviations. The Wakanookians oppress deviations, casting them out of society because they don't see them as equal. They hate the deviations, and their fear is conceived out of hatred for them because they don't see them as equal. We see this again in the climax of the story when the Sealand lady, a member of a fully telepathic society, chooses to genocide all the Fringes people and the Wakanookians. However, her behavior differs from how the Wakanookians feel about their victims. The telepaths look into her mind after she admits to killing all the Fringes and Wakanookian dudes. They mention being puzzled by the Sealand woman, for there was no callousness in her mind, just a slight distaste. She evidently doesn't hate her victims. However, she does not see any value in their lives, which justified her genocide of all those people. Sealand is a way more technologically advanced society than Wakanook, considering that they have better technology than we have today, which just goes to show how outmatched the Fringes and Wakanookians were.
In the X-Men, the normal people see the mutants as a threat, which we see at the very beginning of the movie. They choose to establish control over the mutants because they fear the power they possess. In other words, because the mutants don't conform to the norms of society, they end up being the outsiders since they're the ones who don't fit in from society's perspective. The movie sets up a message calling for equality, whilst portraying hate and discrimination as byproducts of inequality.
Now, figuring out whether the Chrysalids or the X-Men is better requires us to figure out which one showed its theme better, because that's really the only fair way to compare the two. First of all, every single chapter contributes to the overall theme in some way or another. The book has little to no filler, making it a quick but succinct read, as it tells a meaningful message while still being super brief. The story was, in our opinion, a bit boring and kind of forgettable at times. But we're not really taking entertainment into account, because The Chrysalids is obviously not meant to be an entertaining book, while the X-Men is meant to be entertaining because it's a superhero movie and that's what they do.
The X-Men shows its theme just as well as The Chrysalids does, which just appears to be a cliche superhero movie. The good guys always win and they never kill the bad guys for some reason. Definitely all of that, but it's also so much more. The same theme not being as major as it was in The Chrysalids gets its message across really well, with Magneto's childhood scene at the beginning of the movie. The whole thing with Senator Kelly trying to pass the Mutant Registration Act, and the part after that with Professor X and Magneto, already start to understand that there's some tension between the normal people and the mutants, and the conflict within the mutants themselves. Later on, Magneto's evil plan is revealed, that he wants to convert a huge majority of humanity into mutants. That's what he believes to be superior species. With that, we see his belief in the mutants' superiority to want to get rid of as many humans as possible, because he thinks his species is just better. Thus, that sounds like the Sealand lady justifying or literally killing everyone at the end of the Chrysalids. Now it's a little different because Magneto isn't killing anyone on purpose, at least, but it's pretty much the same concept. The cycle of hate between Magneto, the X-Men, and the normal people is reminiscent of the ones between the Wakanookians, Fringes, telepaths, and Sealand people. The one difference is that in the X-Men, people actually choose to reject the cycle and try to fight it.
With that being said, both the X-Men and the Chrysalids do a really good job of showing their theme statement. with the Chrysalids taking an austere, realistic approach, while the X-Men is the more positive of the two. They're both really good, and it's hard to pick one over the other. But if we had to choose, Chrysalids would come out on top, just because of its realisticness and stuff. But that's all for today. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell.
And leave a comment down below.
But that's it for today's video. See y'all next week.